Hi there, and welcome to the first episode of Harbor Media's ShoreTalk. I'm Graham King, and we're here to make sure that the news in the town of Hingham is always making a splash. Well, it has been a crazy summer, but Harbor Media has been working tirelessly ensuring our first episode is a memorable one. Some people might think that with school being out that there wasn't a lot going on, but boy, they were wrong. We begin our show today with our top story at Hingham Town Hall, where over a dozen local Korean War veterans were honored for their service. Our official ShoreTalk field reporter Jeff Cutler has more on the Korean Ambassador for Peace Medal ceremony that celebrated those who traveled across the globe nearly 70 years ago in order to defend our great country. Jeff, take it away.
On a sunny day in June 1950, nearly 75,000 soldiers poured across the 38th parallel between North and South Korea. Today, nearly 70 years later, here at Sanborn Auditorium at Hingham Town Hall, more than a dozen Korean War veterans from Hingham are being honored with a commemorative medal for their service. To honor the brave sacrifices of the men and women who served, the Embassy of the Republic of Korea has recognized the eligible veterans with the Ambassador for Peace Medal. A ceremony was held at Hingham Town Hall, which involved medals being presented and a wreath-laying ceremony paying tribute to those who made the ultimate sacrifice, being unable to come home to their loved ones. The Korean War lasted about 3 years, in which an estimated 5 million soldiers and civilians lost their lives.
It's a very prestigious thing to me. It brings back memories. I landed as a PFC in Korea, the 1st Shore Body Battalion, 1st Marine Division. And my first introduction to my new unit, 1st Shore Body Battalion, 1st Marine Division, was my Sergeant Major. And he had my SRB in front of him. Sergeant Major looks at me and he says, PFC Borowski, goes over the pay. I notice you're a foreigner. I said, yes, sir, I am. He says, you're a German citizen. I said, yes, I am, sir. And then he looked at me, PFC Borowski, one thing I don't like are foreigners in my unit. And I thought a bomb went off. About a month later, the Sergeant Major wants to see me. I said, oh my God, now what? And I'm in the hooch, and he looks at me, he says, PFC Borowski, I look further in your SRB, and there are all kind of possibilities that you can become an American citizen. I said, sir? Well, about a week later, he calls me in again. He says, I made up all the paperwork for you to become a citizen. I said, that's to myself. I said, that's impossible. He said, yeah, we have to go to Seoul, Korea, 8th Army headquarters. When I got there, there was a Quonset hut, and it had about 60, 70 people in it, all foreigners. And they all got sworn in by a U.S. representative from the state of New York. And that's how I became a citizen of our country, serving for the U.S. I'm an American now.
You know, you can see if you look at the time period, if the Second World War had just ended and the Vietnam War was just about to start, and now we look back and people forget that window. That's why it's the forgotten war, okay? And but if you spend 3 years, 13 months of your life there, or whatever you spend there, and some people give their life there, I could see where you get very upset. Family members would be upset that the war's forgotten. And I hope they do more things like this, honoring veterans, okay? Because veterans can get down in the mouth sometimes when times are tough for them, and they need support. And all veterans give something up when they do something like joining the military, whether they're in combat, wherever they are. They're losing something in their lifetime. I hope they're going to be seeing this. But my daughter married a South Korean, and they lived in Pennsylvania. And just in the past week or so, she was invited to go to South Korea and went with my granddaughter. Before she went, I gave her a map from 1952, okay, with all the locations that I was located, so that she got a chance to get to any of these places. She could walk in my footsteps. God, I can't believe it. My daughter, whoever would have thought that when I was there, that I would have family there.
The medals received by Hingham veterans today were provided as an expression of gratitude. The surprising thing when you look into the eyes of our service people is that this war was so poignant, and yet it's known as the forgotten war. Back to you, Graham.
Thank you, Jeff. It's always important to pay tribute to those who serve to keep us safe. Our community is well known as the embodiment of the typical American town. The Peace Medal ceremony was a great example of that. And another representation of American pride was on a sunny morning last 4th of July. Thousands of people gathered and celebrated the birth of the United States. Special guest reporter Joe Collimore talked to onlookers of the parade as it traveled down Main Street and asked them, what does the 4th of July mean to you?
Today, July 4, is the anniversary of this great country. This is Joe Collimore with a special segment of ShoreTalk. I'm here in Hingham's historic downtown to observe this town's annual 4th of July parade and to see how this community celebrates this iconic day.
The parade committee comes up with a theme for the parade, and then they have a competition between all the 5th grades in town to create the image here.
So this actual graphic, this image here, was designed by a 5th grade Hingham student.
Yeah.
Do you recall the student's name?
Yeah, her name's right on here, Elena Marsden. The buttons has been going on for like 26 years. Mm-hmm. Parade committee is self-supporting, doesn't get any funding from the town of Hingham. So as the Rotary Club, one of the things we do to help is sell these buttons.
I was elected the Grand Marshal of this year's parade.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's a huge honor. It's Cheers for Hingham Volunteers, and it's in memory or in tribute to Ginny Gray, who was the longtime volunteer on the parade committee as well as in town many, many different organizations.
Well, the 4th of July parade is important for any American. I'm a Coast Guard veteran. I work for the Department of Homeland Security now. The 4th of July is America.
And David, you were sharing that this is your first Hingham parade.
That's correct. I'm new to the area. It reminds me of my hometown. This is home. I like it.
It's amazing, and the heat here is just phenomenal. I can't believe how they're doing it. They're doing a fantastic job.
And what do you think about the Americans and our celebration of the 4th of July?
I absolutely love it. Wonderful. I always love coming to America.
Well, it's a great place to bring my family, and we have a great time every year, starting from the road race in the morning. We head on down and cheer those runners on, and then we come on down here and see all of our friends and family in Hingham.
Is there a special part of the parade that you like?
Well, we always have a lot of the nieces and nephews in the floats, from their baseball teams to their troops to all that stuff, so it's always fun to see everybody.
of July is incredibly meaningful to me as an American. In Hingham, just 4th of July is a place to be. It's a slice of Americana. We really celebrate the simplicity of our country, our freedom, families. When I was on the parade committee, it was simple. We wanted it to be just families getting together, generations of families.
Well, Graham, as you can see, everyone here is clearly proud to be an American. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Joe. Love the Cheers for Volunteers theme. And shout out to the parade committee for an amazing job. So Hingham has so many activities that allow you to have some fun in the sun. Like, for example, at the Hingham Maritime Center, where people of various ages and capabilities have access to things like sailing, rowing, and related educational opportunities. Originally, the Lincoln Sailing Club, or HMC, has been committed to promoting lifelong skills, healthy living, and an enduring love of the harbor. But what does it take to truly be a sailor? And what is going on at the center that has a lot of people excited for the future? Well, Jeff has more about our sea-loving friends.
Today we're talking with Nick Judson, who's the Executive Director of the Hingham Maritime Center, formerly Lincoln Sailing Club, if you've been in Hingham for any amount of time. And Nick, tell us what goes on here and maybe a little bit of history about the club.
Well, I'd say that the biggest thing that goes on here is it's a lot of fun. Opportunity for all generations, kids, adults, to get out on the water. Any sort of activity associated with those. We've got instruction. We have the opportunity for people to go out and participate at a recreational level and a more competitive level. Our goal here at the Maritime Center is to get people out on the water and sort of create a affordable access to the water, and that's something that they've been able to do since 1970, 1971.
Well, with the morph of the name to Maritime Center from Lincoln Sailing Club, I learned how to sail here as well. So for me, it's a little different to see crew boats, to see shells, to see different styles of boats. What's the most popular boat for someone that comes down here to learn sailing?
It's interesting. I wouldn't say that there's necessarily a most popular boat, but I would say that in terms of the numbers, our youth program in sailing, those kids are sailing an Optimus, so that's sort of the boat that we use primarily for teaching.
Let's back up a little bit. If someone comes to the Maritime Center, how long does it take them, if they're a total newbie, if they've never been in a sailboat, how long does it take them to learn how to sail?
It's like anything that you get involved with. Everybody learns at a little different pace, and people learn in different ways. It's whether they're youth program kids, adult kids, sailors, or rowers. We adapt the program to sort of fit how somebody wants to learn. The basic level of rowing they're going to be able to do almost immediately, because we use the ergs here, which are the sort of automated rowing simulators that are on land. But we're able to get them out on the water and sort of get, they've gotten that feel on the erg, then we get them out rowing, and they're able to sort of build off that. To advance, like anything, it's maybe a couple of weeks. One of the big highlights for the program here is that we've become the home of both Hingham High School Sailing Team and the Hingham High School Rowing Team. We're training kids to then advance into the rowing or into the sailing. Up until a year ago, the organization hasn't really had a long-term lease here on the property. So didn't really know if we were going to be back the next year. So it was very difficult to sort of fundraise and invest in equipment if you didn't know if you were going to be back the next year. After extensive meetings and working with the town, we now have an agreement for a 30-year lease.
Wow.
And with the understanding that we're going to build a new facility here on site to accommodate all of our sailing and rowing needs. We're doing a very large capital campaign to raise the money, not only for the building, but also adding some new fleets down on the water to sort of accommodate the expansion of where we're going to end up in the future.
Well, thanks for taking the time to speak with us, and I wish you all the success in the world.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time, and please come down and join us or check us out on our website at hinghammaritime.org. Thank you.
You're welcome. Charting a course for success. This is Jeff Cutler at the Hingham Maritime Center, right down here in Hingham by the Rotary. Back to you, Graham.
Thanks, Jeff. If you'd like to volunteer at HMC, visit their website at hinghammaritime.org. The center relies on both youth and adult volunteers to support the many activities both in the office and in the water. But I can tell you one thing, when I buy a house, it's going to be on the water. But what does it take to have the ability to buy a home in a community like Hingham? And what are some crucial things that need to be on that list in order for your dreams to become a reality? Well, after extensive research, Jeff has more about the real estate process in the South Shore. And over to you, Jeff.
Thanks, Graham. We're now in downtown Hingham, where behind me you can see construction underway. And when I think about construction, I think about real estate, because so many people these days are finding a property, purchasing it, and then building a new home on that property. Primarily, if you're looking to buy a property, you want to make sure that you have a pre-authorization letter from the bank so that if you're going to open houses and going to see properties, you're ready to make an offer and make a qualified offer. If you're selling a property, you have to really try and detach yourself from your existing home, because so many people fall in love with their home because they've lived there. You have to declutter and depersonalize so that someone coming in to purchase your home can picture themselves in that property. Most of all, you have to realize that in today's market, there are so many online resources that allow you to see a home, but you don't always get the perspective you get if you go on site with a qualified realtor or agent. So what you can do to best prepare yourself for selecting a property, especially here in Hingham, is find a qualified realtor. And once you have that realtor, put your trust in them to advise you, because they are working for you when you're out looking for a home or new property. Hey, Graham, back to you at the station.
Those houses are just beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. You know, summer is such a funny time. You look forward to it all year, and then in the blink of an eye, it's gone. Well, as the season slowly begins to change and the leaves are starting to fall, here is Jeff speaking with the Hingham Public Schools Assistant Superintendent on what parents and kids get to look forward to as the new school year begins.
This is Jeff Cutler here at Hingham Town Hall with Dr. James Lebellois, who is the Assistant Superintendent of Schools. Today we wanted to talk with, can I call you Jamie?
Sure can, absolutely, please do.
We're going to talk with Jamie about some of the programming that's going to go on in the Hingham school system this year, including computer science, some professional development, some social and emotional programming, and maybe talk about how parents can get their kids ready and themselves ready for a new school year.
Well, there's a number in progress, but I think what may make sense again is to focus on those three. And the biggest one, and again, we've been communicating regularly with our community about our computer science rollout. So in June of 2016, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts released its set of digital literacy and computer science curriculum frameworks, which were designed to outline a really rigorous course of study for students in grades K through 12, focused on both digital literacy and computer science. As we look ahead to this year, through the generous support of the Hingham Education Foundation, we've actually identified an initial cohort of teachers who will be trained in August to start the school year as our very first computer science immersion cohort. So they will be working with trainers that we've contracted with as they think of new and creative ways to maintain the integrity of our academic program, but also allow our students new and innovative ways to show their knowledge through computer science and programming. What was important to us as we began to think through this work was to ensure that we were providing sort of cutting edge modern instruction independent of device. So really our kids are learning the underlying skill of how a computer is programmed, how you actually code. When you press the power button on the back of your computer and your computer boots up, it's not magic, right? There's actually a number of algorithms speaking to each other, telling it what to do. And so we're focusing on the underlying principles of computer science rather than new or flashy technology. That said, we have purchased a number of devices for our students to work with. And what we were always really thoughtful of is preparing students for their future, not our past. So what we do know is these will be essential skills that they will need to have mastery over in the 21st century, whether or not they choose to engage in a course of study in computer science.
Does that dovetail into the professional development that we were talking about earlier?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So several years ago, revamped our professional development program for our teachers. And what we wanted to make sure is that we were offering choice-based professional development in areas that each educator felt like they needed or wanted to grow professionally in. So we have over 35 workshops running. In the fall, we'll be running a sheltered English immersion class, which really deals with kids who are English language learners and what are the core underlying sort of pedagogical or teaching strategies we should be using with this population of kids. And in the winter through the spring, we're running an on-site graduate course in partnership with the Landmark School, which is a specialized school for kids with language-based learning disabilities. And they're going to be running an on-site class here in Hingham for our educators focused on better understanding language-based learning disabilities and the associated instructional strategies and study skills that kids with language-based learning disabilities need.
One of the other interesting things I wanted to talk to you about and really get your description of it.
Yeah.
What is a social emotional model?
That's a great question. So what we know, and the research has been pretty clear about this for a number of years, is there is a direct connection between academic performance and a student's social emotional skills. And social emotional skills is really a fancy way of talking about those soft skills. Empathy, understanding, perspective taking, right? Those skills that in order to be effectively working with peers or in teams or even to have a personal relationship, we need to have a certain level of proficiency in those soft skills. And so what we're looking at is a sort of comprehensive approach, using a multi-tiered model. So what does that mean? That means that all kids in K-12 will receive some baseline instruction in social emotional skill development. So it's no longer something that's sort of reserved for special groups of kids who might be struggling. We recognize that all of our students need support.
So as you get all this stuff in place, as you set the wheels in motion to help kids cope, how do you help the parents cope, and how do you help the parents get ready to send their kids off to school if they're coming maybe to school for the first time or moving from a junior high to a high school, or any transition that might actually be a little stressful for some of the students?
Absolutely. So the important thing is that our community understands that we're here to support and develop all of our students. Again, there's nothing we can do to take transitions away, but our staff work really diligently to ensure that it's as smooth as possible. I think what's important, how to get ready for the school year, is that we're also, as we roll out the social emotional program for our students, we're also simultaneously rolling out a community-based education program. If I could wave a wand, I would ensure that all of our community understands that we're here for their students, that we're here to be a support, and to not be afraid to reach out to us. Sometimes we'll be made aware of issues that come across on Facebook or through social media, or when in reality we're here working with the kids and we're not necessarily monitoring those other social media sites.
Well, thank you very much for your time today. Hey, Graham, it's been a real learning experience here at Hingham School Department. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Jeff and Jamie. Before we wrap up our first episode, let's take a look at some of Harbor Media's newest content. On the latest episode of Close-Ups, Joe Collimore interviews Jeff Deal, Republican candidate for U.S. Senate representing Massachusetts. Some of Deal's professional background revolves around both advertising and film production. As a state representative from Whitman, Deal's hard work on behalf of Massachusetts taxpayers has saved residents across the state from having to pay billions of dollars in new taxes over the last several years. Want to learn more about our town? Then check out Hingham Legend Fact. Hingham Legend Fact, The Beginning of Hingham, is one of Harbor Media's newest programs that examines the history of the town. In this first episode, we take a look at the Puritan beginnings of Hingham, who came here as a response to persecution and economic depression in England. The original settlers dreamed of reforming the Church of England in order to better suit their way of worship. One of the Puritan migrants named Peter Hobart would come to actually establish the Hingham settlement in an area first known as Bear Cove. Upon his death, the old ship meeting house was constructed, which is now known as the oldest structure still being used today in America and a physical testament to Hingham's commitment to the preservation of our country's history. Well, that's about it. Tune in next time as Jeff and I continue to research and report on some new and important stories in the South Shore. I'm Graham King, signing off.